Have you ever noticed that the heaviest things we carry are often the things we once believed we could never live without? Think of a friendship that used to feel like an absolute sanctuary, a friendship that felt like home. This was the person who knew your stories before you even finished telling them, a space where you felt completely understood, where you could drop your armor and simply breathe. But then, quietly, almost invisibly, the air in that room began to change. It did not happen overnight. The conversations just slowly grew shallow. The silences, which were once comfortable and warm, became strained and hollow. You started to feel as though you were walking on eggshells in a house you helped build. You found yourself calculating your words, hiding your growth, or shrinking your light just to keep the peace. You stayed because the history was deep. You stayed because you remembered how it used to feel. Buddhist wisdom teaches us a difficult but liberating truth. Suffering does not arise simply because things change. Suffering arises because we demand that things stay the same forever. We form deep, profound attachments not just to people, but to the static memory of who they were and the fantasy of who they will be to us in the future. We cling desperately to the echo of a bond, long after the reality of the music has faded. Imagine a thick, heavy winter coat. For years, it kept you warm through the coldest, darkest seasons of your life. You loved it, you relied on it, it saved you. But eventually, the earth turns, the seasons change. Summer arrives with its bright, radiant heat. Yet, out of loyalty to that coat, you refuse to take it off. You walk through the warmth of a new season, sweating, exhausted, and weighed down, simply because you feel it would be ungrateful to let go of the very thing that once protected you. We do exactly this with relationships. We hold on to a connection not because it still nourishes our spirit, but because it feels like a betrayal to acknowledge that we have grown past it. We try to force ourselves back into old shapes. We pour our precious energy into a cup with a crack in the bottom, hoping that if we just give a little more, listen a little longer, or try a little harder, the old comfort will miraculously return. But forcing a connection to remain what it once was is like trying to hold river water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips through your fingers. Ask yourself, look deeply at the connections that are draining your spirit. Are you holding on to this friendship because it brings you peace, mutual respect, and joy today? Or are you holding on because you are terrified of grieving the beautiful thing it used to be? Pause, breathe, let that sink in. You do not have to fix it right now. Just observe the thought without following it into a spiral of guilt. Notice the physical weight of trying to maintain an illusion. Let the feeling of loss rise without making it your identity. It is okay to outgrow spaces. It is okay to admit that the bridge you are standing on is no longer meant to be crossed. Recognizing that a bond is fading does not erase the love that was shared. It simply means it is subject to the same universal law that governs the clouds, the oceans, and the falling leaves. Everything changes. But letting go of the illusion of forever is incredibly difficult, especially when you are the only one trying to keep the connection alive. And this is where the next truth begins, because there is a deep, quiet exhaustion that sets in when love turns into unseen, one-sided labor. What if the exhaustion you feel is not from a lack of sleep, but from constantly carrying a connection that someone else has already put down? Here is the truth few people want to face. The deepest loneliness does not come from being alone. It comes from being in a relationship where your presence is barely acknowledged. You know the feeling. The friendship shifts from a natural, effortless exchange of warmth into a solitary task. You find yourself always initiating the plans, always checking in, always being the listener when they are hurting, but finding a completely empty room when you need to speak. You send the messages that are met with long, agonizing silences, only to eventually receive a brief, distant reply. You make excuses for them. You convince yourself they are just busy, stressed, or going through a difficult season. But deep down, you feel the quiet, aching sting of being deprioritized. You are doing all the rowing in a two-person boat. Buddhist wisdom gently asks us to observe where our energy flows. It teaches us the importance of mindful awareness and right effort. When we pour our life force into a void, we drain the sanctuary of our own spirit. True connection, much like nature itself, requires a natural balance. A tree cannot survive if it only gives fruit, but never receives water from the earth. Clinging to a dynamic where you are the sole provider of care is a form of attachment. It is an attachment to a past reality, or perhaps a secret belief that if you just try hard enough, you can earn their attention again. Imagine a campfire on a dark, cold beach. To keep it burning, you keep gathering wood. You run into the dark forest, bringing back branches, leaves, and logs, desperately feeding the flames so both of you can stay warm. But the other person simply sits there. They stare at the fire, occasionally warming their hands, but never once getting up to find wood themselves. Eventually, you will run out of strength. The fire will die. Not because you did not care enough, but because one person cannot sustain a fire meant for two. We see this subtle drain in our modern lives constantly. You adjust your rigid schedule to accommodate theirs, but they never have a moment for you. You hold space for their anxieties, remember their fears, and celebrate their victories while they casually scroll past yours. This is not just disappointment, this is one-sided emotional labor, and when care becomes a constant, unreciprocated effort rather than a natural, flowing river, it ceases to be friendship. Think about your own life. Look honestly at the hands you are holding. Are you holding on because the relationship is truly feeding your soul today? Or are you holding on because you are hoping that if you just give a little more, they will finally realize your worth and start giving back? Pause. Breathe. Notice the heavy tension in your chest when you think of this dynamic. You do not have to announce your departure. You do not have to start a conflict. Just try withdrawing your energy, strictly for a moment. Stop reaching out. Stop gathering the wood. Let the silence speak. Observe what remains when you stop forcing the connection to exist. You do not have to prove your worth by over-giving. Your value is not measured by how much exhaustion you can endure to keep someone else comfortable. But stepping back means letting the fire go out. It means facing the quiet. And this is where the next truth begins. Because often, we keep rowing the heavy boat not because we love the journey, but because we are absolutely terrified of the silence waiting for us on the shore. 3. The fear of empty space. What if the reason you refuse to let go is not because the connection is still alive, but because you are terrified of the empty chair they will leave behind? Here is the truth. We often cling to exhausting, one-sided friendships because the alternative feels too unbearable to face. We would rather hold on to a broken bond than stand alone in the quiet. When a friendship has been a major part of your life, their absence leaves a profound gap. A sudden silence on your phone, a vacant weekend afternoon, a quiet realization that you have no one to immediately text when something strange or wonderful happens. So, you tolerate the distance. You accept feeling ignored. You stay in the uncomfortable dynamic because a familiar pain feels somehow safer than an unknown void. In Buddhist thought, emptiness is profoundly misunderstood. We tend to view empty space as a lack, a deprivation, or a lonely abyss. But Buddhist wisdom teaches that emptiness is not a dead zone, it is the very ground of potential. It is the vast, open sky that allows the clouds to move. Without empty space, nothing new can grow. Our suffering comes from our desperate need to fill every corner of our lives with noise, even if that noise is slowly breaking our hearts. Imagine a room in your house that you have filled with old, heavy, fading furniture. For years, it gave you a place to rest. Now, the wood is splintering and the fabric is torn, but you refuse to clear it out. Why? Because you know that if you remove the furniture, the room will echo. The silence of the empty space will feel strange and overwhelming. But as long as that decaying furniture takes up all the floor space, no new light can reach the corners, no fresh air can circulate. You have no room to dance, to breathe, or to invite anything beautiful and new into your home. We do this in our daily lives constantly. We keep going to the same social gatherings where we feel completely invisible. We stay in group messages that drain our peace. We hold on to the digital threads of a past connection, afraid that if we let the thread snap, we will be left entirely alone. We sacrifice our self-respect just to avoid a quiet evening with our own thoughts. Ask yourself, look closely at the silence you are running from. Are you truly holding on to this person because you love who they are today? Or are you simply holding on to the space they occupy in your life? What are you afraid will happen to you if you finally let the room be empty? Pause. Breathe. Stop trying to furiously furnish the room. Just for today, let the empty space simply be empty. Observe the fear of being alone without letting it dictate your actions. You do not have to rush to fill the void. You are not powerless, and you do not need to accept an invisible existence just to keep someone around. You are allowed to let the room breathe, because true peace is not found by cramming your life with exhausting noise. It is found when you are finally unafraid of your own quiet company. But sitting in that quiet, empty room does more than just bring silence. It acts as a mirror. And this is where the next truth begins. Because outgrowing a friendship is never just about them. It is a profound reflection of who you have become. 4. The mirror of outgrowing. What if the distance between you and your friend is not a failure of loyalty, but the profound evidence of your own healing? Here is the truth. Sometimes you outgrow people not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring for yourself. When a friendship begins to crack, we often assume something went terribly wrong. We search for a single event or someone to blame. But often, the problem is not a harsh betrayal or a loud argument. The problem is that you have simply evolved. You start setting quiet boundaries. You no longer want to participate in the same endless cycles of complaining or gossip. You stop agreeing with things you do not believe just to keep the peace. You stop being the person who drops everything to fix everyone else's life. And suddenly, the friend who relied on the old, exhausted version of you does not know how to interact with the new, grounded version of you. You are met with resistance. You feel a heavy, sinking guilt, as if your personal growth is a selfish act. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that nothing in the universe is static, including our own identity. There is no permanent, unchanging self. We are constantly flowing, learning, and transforming. Suffering arises when we try to freeze ourselves in time to meet the expectations of others. Outgrowing a relationship is not an act of cruelty. It is the natural law of impermanence manifesting in your own soul. Imagine a strong young tree planted in a beautiful small clay pot. For years, the pot was exactly what the tree needed. It held the soil, provided safety, and allowed the seed to sprout. But as the tree grows, its roots begin to hit the hard ceramic walls. The roots curl back on themselves, desperate for space. The pot did not do anything wrong. It is a good pot, but if the tree does not leave it, it will suffocate its own roots and stop growing entirely. To reach the open sky, the tree must be moved to the open earth. We experience this constantly in our modern lives. The friends who felt like home when you were anxious, unsure, and seeking validation may no longer feel like home when you begin to value silence, peace, and self-respect. They are not necessarily villains. They are simply spaces that can no longer hold the depth of your roots. You are trying to squeeze a vast, growing spirit into a container that was built for a past version of you. Think about your own life. Ask yourself, are you carrying guilt because someone told you that you have changed? What if changing was the entire point of your journey? Are you trying to force your expanding roots back into an environment that is simply too small for who you are becoming? Pause. Breathe. Let the guilt of your evolution wash away. Observe the feeling of expanding without pulling back. Do not apologize for your growth. You do not have to shrink yourself down just to make someone else comfortable. Letting go of the small pot does not mean you hate it. It means you are finally answering the call of the open sky. You can honor the spaces that once held you while still choosing to step into the sun. But recognizing this truth requires something profound. It requires releasing the other person without bitterness. And this is where the next truth begins. Because true detachment is never about anger. It is about the gentle grace of compassion. 5. The compassion of letting go. What if the kindest thing you can do for someone is to stop trying to force them to love you the way you want to be loved? Here is the truth. We often mistake detachment for anger. When a friendship slowly fades and we realize the care is no longer mutual, our first instinct is usually deep resentment. We feel profoundly betrayed. We replay old conversations in the quiet of the night. We mentally tally up everything we did for them, every sacrifice we made, every secret we kept, every time we were there for them when they were falling apart. We hold on to this bitterness, believing that but the anger is not a shield. It is a chain. By staying angry, you are still desperately attached to them. Buddhist wisdom teaches that true non-attachment is not cold, and it is not cruel. It is deeply intertwined with compassion. In Buddhist thought, much of our suffering comes from clinging to a specific outcome or demanding that another person fulfill our internal needs. When we practice non-attachment, we are not saying we no longer care. We are saying we no longer wish to control. We release the heavy, suffocating grip of expectation. We let go of the rigid idea of how they were supposed to act. Imagine you are holding a small, delicate bird in your hands. You love this bird. You want to protect it, keep it warm, and hear it sing forever. But eventually, the bird begins to pull away, restless, wanting to fly toward the open sky. If you squeeze your hands tightly together out of fear of losing it, you will only crush it. The only way to truly love the bird is to open your hands completely. You must let it fly, not because you are angry that it wanted to leave, but out of profound respect for its nature and its freedom. We face this exact choice in our relationships. In our daily lives, true compassion looks like quiet acceptance. It means you stop sending the long messages trying to explain why they hurt you, secretly hoping they will suddenly understand and apologize. It means you stop trying to guilt them into showing up. It means you let them be busy. You let them drift. You let them prioritize other things. You stop trying to force a closed door to open. You simply step back and allow them to walk the path they are choosing, without demanding that you remain at the center of their world. Think about your own life. Look deeply at the resentment you are carrying. Ask yourself, are you holding on to anger because it feels like the last remaining thread connecting you to this friend? Is this bitterness bringing you peace, or is it feeding your fear? What would happen if you simply let them be exactly who they are, without needing them to change for you? Pause. Breathe. Unclench your jaw. Release the tight grip in your hands. Let the feeling rise without making it your identity. Stop trying to force the door open. You do not have to hate someone to let them go. You can simply accept that their chapter in your story has quietly ended, because peace is not something you chase. It is something you make space for when you stop trying to control the wind. But letting go of them is only half the journey. And this is where the next truth begins. Because the heaviest burden you are carrying is not their departure. It is the harsh judgment you hold against yourself for trying so hard in the first place. 6. Forgiving the version of you that stayed too long. What if the person you are most angry with is not the friend who let you down, but yourself for allowing it to happen? Here is the truth few people want to face. When we finally walk away from a one-sided connection, the heaviest emotion left behind is rarely grief. It is shame. We look back at the months or even years of unequal effort, and we feel profoundly foolish. We cringe at the memory of always being the one to reach out. We judge ourselves harshly for ignoring the obvious signs, for shrinking our light, and for compromising our own boundaries just to keep someone else comfortable. We ask ourselves, how could I have been so blind? Why didn't I walk away sooner? We turn our heartbreak into intense self-punishment. Buddhism reminds us that compassion must begin within. In Buddhist thought, holding on to suffering is often fueled by the harsh judgments we cast upon ourselves. Your past self was not weak, stupid, or broken. Your past self was simply operating with the awareness and the emotional tools they had in that moment. They were acting out of a deep human desire for connection, loyalty, and love. Clinging to a failing relationship is often born from a pure, open heart that simply did not want to give up on someone. Punishing yourself for loving deeply is the second arrow you shoot into your own chest. The first arrow was the pain of the fading friendship. The second arrow is the shame you inflict upon yourself for feeling the pain at all. Imagine a traveler walking through a freezing, desolate landscape. In the darkness, they find a small, flickering candle in a quiet room. Desperate for warmth, they cup their bare hands around the flame, shielding it from the harsh wind. The wind blows harder, and the flame begins to burn their palms. But they refuse to let go, because they are terrified of the dark. Eventually, the pain becomes too much, and they must pull away. When they look at their blistered hands, they should not call themselves foolish for holding on. They were not stupid. They were simply doing whatever they could to survive the cold. We do exactly this in our daily lives. You look at your past actions and feel deeply embarrassed by the long messages you sent that received a distant, single-word reply. You feel humiliated by the times you cancelled your own plans to be there for someone who would never do the same. For you carry this embarrassment like a heavy stone. You treat your past self as an enemy you must distance yourself from. Ask yourself, think about your own life. Are you carrying the heavy burden of shame simply because you loved too hard? Are you rejecting the past version of yourself because they were brave enough to try to save something that was failing? Is this self-judgment bringing you peace, or is it feeding your fear? Pause. Breathe. Observe the feeling of shame without following it down a spiral of regret. Forgive the version of you that stayed too long. Forgive the version of you that did not know how to let go. You do not have to carry this embarrassment anymore. You were doing the best you could with a heart that wanted to believe in the good of another person. Let that sink in. You can stop fighting yourself now, because true healing cannot happen in a war zone of self-hatred. But forgiving yourself opens the door to a completely different perspective. And this is where the next truth begins. Because when you stop demanding that the friendship should have lasted forever, you can finally appreciate the profound beauty of its passing. 7. The beauty of impermanence in relationships. What if a friendship ending does not mean it failed? What if it simply means it was successfully completed? Here is the truth. We are deeply conditioned to believe that longevity is the only true measure of value. We are taught that if a friendship does not last forever, it was somehow flawed, broken, or fake. When a deep connection finally fades, we look back at the years we spent together and feel a profound sense of waste. We feel cheated. We label the ending as a tragedy, mourning the death of the bond as if the love shared within it has been entirely erased. One of the deepest lessons of Buddhism is the universal truth of impermanence. Everything in this world is in a constant state of flux. The clouds drift across the sky, the tides rise and fall, and human beings continuously evolve. In Buddhist wisdom, suffering arises when we reject this natural flow. We demand that a fleeting, beautiful experience become a permanent fixture in our reality. But accepting impermanence does not diminish the love we felt. It actually elevates it. It teaches us to honor the connection exactly as it was, without desperately trying to freeze it in time. Imagine a beautiful flower blooming in the wild. For a few short, glorious days, its petals open completely to the sun. It brings color to the earth and sweetness to the air. But eventually, the petals begin to wilt and drift to the ground. When the flower is gone, we do not stand in the field and cry out that the flower was a failure because it did not bloom forever. We understand that its breathtaking beauty was completely tied to its fleeting nature. Its purpose was to bloom for a season, not for eternity. We rarely afford this grace to the people in our modern lives. You meet someone during a difficult chapter, a demanding job, or a lonely season in a new city. For years, you lean on each other. They become your sanctuary. But as you both heal, shift, and step into new versions of yourselves, the natural bond begins to stretch and thin. Instead of thanking them for keeping you warm during that winter, you resent them for not staying through the spring. You scroll through old photos, seeing them live a new life without you, and you let it break your heart. You measure the absolute worth of the bond by how long it lasted, rather than how brightly it burned when you needed it most. Think about your own life. Ask yourself, can you look back at this friendship and see the absolute beauty it held in its own time? What if you stopped viewing its departure as a betrayal and started viewing it as a beautiful, completed chapter in the story of your life? Is it possible that they gave you exactly what you needed, and you gave them exactly what they needed, and now the work is done? Pause. Breathe. Observe the memory without clinging to the outcome. Let the gratitude for what was replace the desperate grief for what is no longer. You do not have to hold on to a dying leaf just to prove that the tree was real. Let the season change. Let life meet you where you are. But recognizing this impermanence forces us to look closely at what we are truly searching for. And this is where the next truth begins. Because as long as you try to build a home inside another person, you will always live in fear of being left out in the cold. 8. Redefining what home means. What if the deepest pain of outgrowing a friendship is not the loss of a person, but the sudden realization that you have nowhere to hide? Here is the truth. We often use other people as our absolute sanctuary. When life feels chaotic, exhausting, or unbearably lonely, we look to our closest friends to anchor us. We call them our home. But when that person begins to pull away, or when the connection simply fades into a one-sided silence, we are left standing in the cold. We feel entirely unmoored. We panic. We try to force our way back into the relationship, sending desperate messages, clinging to old memories, and trying to fix something we cannot control. We do this because we are terrified of feeling homeless in our own lives. We have relied so heavily on their presence to feel safe that their absence feels like a quiet apocalypse. Buddhism reminds us of the profound danger of taking absolute refuge in the impermanent. If you build your ultimate foundation on something that is governed by the laws of change, like the feelings, availability, or consistency of another human being, you will inevitably experience suffering. The weather will turn, people will evolve. True refuge cannot be outsourced. Buddhist wisdom teaches that lasting sanctuary can only be cultivated deeply from within. Imagine building a magnificent, sturdy house on the deck of a moving riverboat. It feels incredibly safe when the boat is docked in calm, quiet waters. You decorate the rooms, you sleep deeply inside, but the boat does not belong to you, and its fundamental nature is to move. When the anchor is inevitably pulled up and the boat sails into rough, turbulent water, your house begins to violently shake. You cry out for the river to stop flowing. You demand that the boat stay perfectly still. But the riverboat was never meant to be solid ground. We do this in our modern lives constantly. You wait for a friend to soothe your daily anxieties. You rely on their immediate text back to feel worthy or visible. You expect a connection to constantly validate your life choices, and when they are silent or absent, your entire foundation cracks. You feel completely lost. We place the incredibly heavy burden of our inner peace onto the shoulders of people who are simply fighting their own storms. We expect them to carry the weight of our emotional home. Think about your own life. Ask yourself, have you been asking someone else to be the sturdy ground you were meant to build for yourself? Have you been wandering outside, searching for warmth in the hands of others, while the fire inside your own heart has gone completely untended? What are you afraid you will find if you finally sit alone with yourself? Pause. Breathe. Place your hand gently on your own chest. Feel the steady rhythm of your own breath. Stop searching for shelter in someone else's shadow. Let the feeling of being unanchored rise without rushing to desperately fix it. You are not powerless. You do not have to chase a moving boat just to find a place to rest. You can step off. You can plant your feet on the solid earth of your own being, because true peace is never found by forcing someone else to house your spirit. But once you realize you hold the keys to your own sanctuary, you are finally ready for the ultimate quiet. And this is where the final truth begins, because stepping into that peace requires one final, profound act of acceptance. What if the silence you have been running from is not a lonely ending, but the sound of your own life finally returning to you? We began this journey by looking at a friendship that once felt like an absolute sanctuary, a connection that was like a thick, heavy winter coat, keeping you safe and warm through your darkest seasons. When that warmth began to fade, when the relationship quietly shifted into an exhausting, one-sided labor, your first instinct was to fight the change. You desperately gathered the wood to keep the fire alive. You tried to hold the rushing river water in your tight hands. You stayed in a fading room, shrinking your light and punishing yourself, simply because you were terrified of the profound void they would leave behind. You believed that outgrowing this home meant you were losing a piece of your own soul. But Buddhism reminds us that the exact opposite is true. The deep love you poured into that relationship, the immense patience you offered, the profound capacity you have for loyalty, none of that is lost just because the connection has naturally ended. That love belongs to you. It was born within your own spirit, and it remains there today. Letting go of a fading bond does not erase the undeniable beauty of what it once was. It simply means you are no longer forcing an impermanent season to last forever. You are choosing to honor the universal flow of change. Imagine standing alone on the shore of a vast, calm ocean. For years, you have been gripping a heavy stone, absolutely convinced that its tremendous weight was the only thing keeping you grounded in the harsh wind. Your hands are blistered. Your spirit is completely exhausted. But eventually, you look around and realize the storm has passed. You take a deep breath, and you simply open your fingers. The stone drops gently into the water, sinking quietly out of sight. You are still standing there, The earth is still perfectly firm beneath your feet. The sky is bright and clear. You were not washed away. And for the first time in a very long time, your hands are completely free. Think about that vast, open space. Think about the peace you will invite in when you stop pouring your precious energy into a void. You can stop rowing the heavy boat by yourself. You can stop replaying the old conversations, wishing you had said something different to make them stay. You no longer have to exhaust yourself just to earn a place in someone else's life. True, mutual connection does not require you to constantly beg for it. It does not force you to walk on eggshells. It flows naturally. It meets you exactly where you are, without demanding that you shrink your expanding roots to fit into a tiny pot. You are allowed to miss them. You are allowed to deeply grieve the beautiful chapter that has closed, but you must also honor the sanctuary you are building within yourself. You no longer need them to act as your ultimate refuge. You have survived the cold. You have cleared the old, decaying furniture from the quiet room. Now, it is time to let the fresh air in. It is time to let the new light reach the forgotten corners. Pause, breathe. Place your hand gently over your heart. Let the quiet exhaustion completely leave your body. You do not need to chase what is already leaving. If these lessons touched your heart, share this video with someone who may need a little more peace today. You can let go now.